أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. One of the most important needs that mankind has, that without this need, he will not be able to function, is the need for calmness, peace. We truly believe that Islam brings within us an inner peace. And as many of you, pious brothers and sisters, have realized in your lives, that the more you practice Islam, the more peaceful you are within, the more calm you are. But many times we are faced with tribulations, afflictions, either at the international level, like what is happening in Lebanon right now, what is happening in Palestine right now. And it causes us many of times to have anxiety, to have stress. So we need to be able to deal with such calamity, not to turn away and not look at it. But we have to realize that that calmness, that peace comes from within. And that many of our prophets, when Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown in the fire, he was at peace. The fire was at peace. He was at peace. He had true reliance on Allah. Or you see other stories in the Quran that teaches us that we need to have peace. We need to have tranquility. We need to have patience. Like the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and his mother casting the infant son into the river. And that he as well, the mother of Prophet Musa as well, had peace. So we know that right now are very difficult times when we make our prayers for the madhlumeen, the oppressed. But at the same time, we should rid ourselves of anxiety and stress and realize that everything is in the hands of Allah, that all of creation belongs to Him. Sometimes we look at musibat and calamities, and we look at some of the traditions that the Imams teach us, that once a person lost a child, and we sometimes think that there cannot be a worse calamity than this, than losing a child. And the Imam mentions to this person that you have had anxiety for what has been asghar or suqra, which has been low. But in front of you, there is a calamity that is akbar, which is more great. And he tells them that that calamity which is in front of you, obviously is the Day of Judgment. And that if you were prepared for this Day of Judgment, this calamity, this crying that you had for your son would be lessened, because you have to prepare yourself to where your son went. So Islam and Deen are always teaching us how to become great people, how to become patient people, how to become calm people. We see our scholars, our ulama, faced with the most difficult of affliction, yet they were so calm and peaceful when they made their decisions. And you have to be peaceful, you have to be calm. Imagine, for example, a surgeon trying to perform surgery and he has anxiety or stress. Can his hands, for example, operate correctly? Or a teacher trying to teach and not being patient, or a mother in the family, a father in the family, not having peace, not having tranquility. A lot of us, we think that peace and tranquility comes from exterior factors, external factors. Yes, that plays a role. But the main thing we learn is that we can make ourselves very calm people. We can learn from the prophets and imams that they were the most peaceful people, even though their external situation and environment was the most turbulent. What is the best example that you can think of? One of the worst calamities that befell on this earth. It is the day of Ashura. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was at a time where he could not even provide water for his own family, could not provide water for his children, his infants. And he knows that everyone from his family members and friends, basically everyone will become shaheed the next day or that day. Yet you see that the angels are amazed, astonished at the patience of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam was a calm heart. The day of Ashura, everyone had anxiety, everyone had stress, but one soul had peace, and that was the soul of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And when he was shaheed, he came to his soul satisfied. He was mutma'inna, he was in true calmness. He was the assured soul. He was satisfied with his Lord, and his Lord was satisfied with him. We look at some of the du'as of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on such a day. Such a day, we said that the external factors is affliction, suffering, thirst, hunger. But yet Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in some of his du'as, says, Allahumma anta thiqati fi kulli karb, wa anta raja'i fi kulli shidda. That Allah, you are my trust in every affliction, and that you are my hope in every difficulty. Imam Hussein alayhi salam never lost hope. Brothers and sisters, we are the children of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We have to learn from Abu Abdullah that when we see such affliction, such calamity, that at the same time we don't allow that to be turned into anxiety. We have to make du'as, we have to make prayers, we have to be up to date with what's going on. But at the same time, we have to learn that the way that you look at life, that is how it changes for you to be an anxious person or to be a calm soul. So therefore, we learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam that on such a day, the day of Ashura, he had hope. And we learn from him when the verse comes, Ya ayyatuha al-nafsul mutma'inna, the calm soul, the tranquil soul. Some of the narrations point that one of the instances of this verse is Imam Hussein. Irji'i ila rabbik radiyatan mardiya. Come back to your Lord while He is you are satisfied with Him and Allah is satisfied with you. What can cause us tranquility and pain? When we look at the Holy Quran, we see different vocabulary. For example, we see the word uskun to Prophet Adam and his wife in heaven. Uskun means what? Reside in heaven. But even that word uskun comes from sakina, comes from tranquility, peace, sakina. Or we see the word itminan, which the root word goes back to water, a land where it's flat, where water doesn't even move. That place is a place of itminan, for example. Or you see other words in the Quran, amn, security, that God provides for us, amn and security. These are good things, these are good words. But what can we do to reach this amn, or this itminan, or this sakina? How can we reach tranquility? How can we reach calmness? Some of the factors that we look, and we said that it is very important to remove ourselves from stress. In the Mental Health Foundation, a study done in 2018, it says that 51% of adults who felt stressed reported feeling depressed. That stress, that anxiety can lead to depression. Sometimes we think that technology will cause, for example, my life to be easier. Yet modern man has at his hands different types of technologies to make his life easier, but man has never reached peace, has caused him more anxiety. How many of you are sometimes worried for your phones that someone will send you a message, an email, for example? It says some of the statistics have that from those that have high levels of stress, 12% said they felt the need to respond instantly. That when you get messages, you have so many apps, and you have to check this app message is there, that app message is there, and to respond. Technology does not make our lives easier necessarily. It doesn't make it more calm, it does make it more easier. The ability to have 75-degree temperature, for example, or to be able to call anyone, look at anyone. But this, with all of its greatness, has not caused us to be calm. And yet, maybe we can call ourselves we're in the age of anxiety and stress. It's caused more stress, technology, for us. And if you look at those who've lived before us that didn't have this technology, sometimes you see they had a much more calm life. They weren't so anxious as we were. So how can we reach this level of peace? One is it goes back to how we view God and how we view our relationship with God. If you truly believe in God and you truly have high iman and you truly trust Him in His decisions, in one of the traditions that talks about this, one of the factors that can cause us calmness is having rida, being satisfied with what God has decreed for you. Why would I be satisfied with what God decreed? Because I understand God as knowing everything, having power over everything, and being the most merciful. So if I truly believe Him to have capability and knowledge and kindness and love, then why would I not want to trust Him? Would you want another Lord that is more kind, that is more powerful, that is more knowledgeable? Quran very nicely says, Alaysa Allah bikafin abda? Is Allah not sufficient? Do you want another Allah? Then why do you not trust Him? Why do you not have patience? Why do you not have hope in Him? Or for example, Quran mentions الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Be aware that with the remembrance of Allah, man finds peace. I want you to think of the most peaceful time you ever had. When was it? It was possibly during the most spiritual of times. Maybe it was when you went to Hajj, for example. Maybe it was when you went to Ziyarah. Maybe it was in Shahr Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, the nights of destiny, that you felt this great connection to Allah, that you have remembered Him, and you have worshipped Him, and you enjoyed that worship. Now you find yourself in absolute calmness. The tradition actually mentions that what that heart that we have is moving, is in movement, until that heart has iman. When that heart has iman, it's stable. That stability comes from iman. Many people tell us, again, I don't say that I am the most patient or calmest of people. You can keep testing me with the children and kids and watch what happens, but we try. And the patience, the more spiritual you are, the more connected you are, the more you know Allah, the more calmness will be, the more you enjoy life. One of our great scholars, sometimes we approach salat in prayer in a way that it is just an obligation to get it over with. Alhamdulillah, I prayed on time. I have the entire night to myself, Maghrib, Isha, all to myself I prayed. Or I prayed Dhuhr and Asr, for example, I have the whole afternoon to myself. Some of our ulama really enjoyed salat, really enjoyed talking to Allah. And they were concerned with, can I perform salat in heaven or not? Will I be able to perform? Because I don't know if that will be the world of taklif or obligation or not. But all I know is the most enjoying thing in this world is my salat. And probably the most calming thing for him is salat. And he was worried, in the hereafter, will I perform salat or not? Will I have this special relationship with Allah or not? This means you're moving away from religion, that is, you're just doing the minimal, you're just doing the wajibat, into finally benefiting from religion. Many of us, we have obligations. We think we should not do haram. But have we really benefited from religion? Have you really become calm through religion? Have you really enjoyed your life through religion in this connection? So the first thing that I want to say is that relationship that you have with God will cause you calmness. And the more that you remember Him throughout the day, the more that you submit to His will. What causes you agitation? Imagine missing a flight. Horrible, right? Oh, I missed my meeting, I missed my lecture, I missed everything, I can't see my family. Well, what if you stepped back and just looked at all of this, that Allah has a plan for me? I tried to come on time. The weather, for example, does not permit me to fly anymore. Allah has a plan for me. It's not that I am, living a human-centric life. I am living a God-centric life where He is the Rabb, He is the Lord. He is administrating everything in this world, and I'm submitting to Him. I'm submitting to His will. If you reach this submission, not that I'm saying don't try hard at work, don't try hard to command the good and forbid the evil, don't neglect the oppressed. I'm not saying that. But at the end, if you have a submissive heart, a heart that submits to the will of Allah, that this is for you submission, and you are being a good abd of Allah. One of the great attributes of our Rasul, we say it in Salat, is he is an abd. Rasulullah is a slave of God. What does a slave do? He submits to the will of God. He submits. The second thing that we don't want to make it too long tonight, I know that we had a nice dinner and there might be some food coma, so I'll make it a little bit shorter, inshallah. The second thing that I would like to talk about tonight is patience that comes with calamity. If you want to see some of these, effects, and ziyarat Aminullah, which I'm sure many of you have read, it's the ziyarat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, very strong sanad. And in it has Allahumma faj'al nafsi mutma'innatan biqadarik. The first thing, oh Allah, cause my soul to be tranquil with your decrees. I need to be mutma'in and in peace with your decrees. Whatever you command in this world, whatever happens, many of those things I have no power. So therefore I submit to your will. Then it says, radiyatan biqada'ik. Let me be satisfied with your acts. Whatever you want for me, my life, I want to be satisfied. A big cause of people to become atheists is that they wanted things in this world and God did not give it to them. Or they made prayer upon prayer and they thought that God has to immediately respond to their prayer. So they left prayer. Many of us, we worship God when we are full. Many of us worship God when we're at peace. But would you still worship God in complete poverty? Would you worship God in complete devastation? This was the test of Prophet Ayub. Shaitan comes to Prophet Ayub. And Prophet Ayub was a great abd of Allah, was a great servant, as Quran says. And Shaitan comes and tells Allah that, why he's worshiping you so good? Because he's got wealth, because he's got family, because he is healthy. That is why he's worshiping you. Take all of these things away and imagine ourselves if God right now today made me the poorest of individuals, made me sick, took away my family. Would I still worship Allah? Prophet Ayub's worship did not change one bit. His worship, when Allah took away his children, Allah took away his health, Allah took away his wealth, one bit did not change. And Allah showed to him the capability of insan, that there are human beings that do not worship Allah just because they have lots of blessings. The tradition has, it's a very nice tradition from the Prophet, if you want to hear it. Please recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Prophet teaches us, there's two sounds in Tuhaf al-Uqul. Two sounds that are detested, Allah doesn't like. One is the sound wailing at a catastrophe. To To cry is okay, to be sad is okay, but to lose it, wail in a way that you cannot control yourself anymore. The tradition says Allah doesn't like this. Allah wants you to be calm. Allah wants you to be patient. The second type of sound that Allah doesn't like is a flute in the time of prosperity. A flute in the time of prosperity. In time of prosperity, it's the time to give to others. It's not the time for us to reach tuqyan, to rebel. So therefore, these two sounds that I do not have calmness during affliction, and I, in a way, rebel in times of goodness. So according to the Ziyarat Aminullah, the first says, مُطْمَئِنَّةً بِقَدَرِكَ, be tranquil with your decrees. رَاضِيَةً بِقَضَائِكَ, satisfied with your acts. And this is the last part that I want to talk about. شَاكِرَةً لِفَوَاضِلِ نَعَمَائِكَ, thankful for your graceful bounties. One of the other things that we do, besides having peace with ourselves, with Allah, the last thing that we do is being grateful, being thankful. How does being grateful cause me to be calm? Because it causes you to appreciate those blessings that Allah has given you. If you are not grateful, then you will always want more. When you always want more, you always say, my life is horrible. Look at this person's life. They're always on vacation. They work from their home, for example, or they barely work. They make lots of money. Look at my wealth. Look at this person, how many children they have. Look at their cars. If I want to be peaceful, if I want to be in complete calm, I should be grateful. How many people here, I'm sure you've recited Surah Al-Rahman. Surah Al-Rahman. What is the verse that repeats all the time in Surah Al-Rahman? Very good. فَبَأَيَّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكَ تُكَذِّبَ. What does it mean? So Allah means bounties. Which one of your bounties, which one of your favors of your Lord do you deny? How many times is this repeated? Around 31 times. Allah repeats this 31 times after talking about the benefits that Allah has given us, about the creation. He keeps repeating this. And there's tradition that you should say, that after you recite this, that I don't deny any of your, bounties. Or if you look, for example, another surah that talks about, teaches us to be appreciative, is Surah Al-Hud. Surah Al-Nahl. Surah Al-Nahl has about 40 bounties of Allah in the surah. Ayatullah Makarim mentions 40 bounties that Allah has given us in Surah Al-Nahl. For example, هُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. One of the bounties is water. We sometimes forget about this bounty. Even though as Muslims all the time, our lives are involved with water. We do tathir with water. We get wudu with water, make ghusl with water, for example. And it mentions that شَرَابٌ وَمِنْهُ شَجَرٌ فِيهِ تُسِيمُونَ. So, for example, it is for you a drink. One of the most enjoyable things we can do is being during a hot summer, having a cool drink of water, right? For us, it's very exhilarating, very enjoyable. Once they say that Sheikh Murtada Ansari, it was in Najaf, a time where ice was sometimes hard to come by. And he asks for a cool cup of water. While he's waiting, because he was probably teaching, he was tired, he was waiting for this cool cup of water. Because he was an abd of Allah, we truly call him as a faqih, a jurist who was an arif. He knew Allah. He said, let me make use of this time. They're going to go find ice and break it and bring me a cup of water. Let me make use of this time. Let me do 2 units of prayer. Let me just worship Allah just to worship Him. He starts this prayer, and his worship begins so long that they bring him the ice water. And he completely forgets about this ice water until his prayers are done, his prayer is done, and it becomes warm. And he drinks the warm water. He wanted ice water But he started making salat, and he liked this salat so much that that ice water became warm water. So we see that Allah has given us different bounties. One of them in Surah Al-Nahl is water. 40 different bounties. Then Allah in the later parts says la'alla. What was la'alla? We went over this a few weeks ago. Perhaps. La'alla. Perhaps. Because maybe. Says the reasoning for these, maybe these 40 bounties, says لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ in the verse of Quran. Maybe we give you these bounties, maybe you can become guided, maybe. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ same surah. Maybe they can think and ponder. We give them bounties, we give them blessings, maybe they can think about it and think, who brought this bounty? Are you going to think like Qarun and think that because of your own knowledge you brought your wealth? Or do you look at your wealth and say, this wealth is from Allah. This health is from Allah. You know, these good friends I have, this good community I have, it is from Allah. It is a ni'mat of Him. The first way to be appreciative is to think and have tafakkur, to say, Allah brought it to me, not myself. I do not have anything. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, Quran says. Allah gives you bounties so that you can be appreciative. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُسْلِمُونَ, so that perhaps you can submit. You can have Islam. You could submit. Allah gives you bounties over bounties. He gives you forgiveness, which is a great bounty. He gives you, sometimes when you look at some of the traditions, for example, the story of Abu Hashim Ja'fari, that he comes to Imam Hadi alayhi salam wanting to complain. He doesn't complain yet. He wants to complain about his poverty. And Imam Hadi alayhi salam has the ability to read the mind. This is some of the wilayat that the Imams have. Just how many times the Prophet and the Imams, they had knowledge of the unseen. They would tell the future. They would talk about collapse, for example, of different empires. They would say, for example, this Persian king would be, for example, die, and then he would say it, and then 1 month later the news would come. The Prophet and Imams have knowledge of the unseen. So he sees Abu Hashim Ja'fari come to him, and he's complaining about poverty. So before he begins, he asks him, Ya Abu Hashim, أي نعم الله عز وجل عليك تريد أن تؤدي شكرها? Which one of the blessings of Allah are you willing to be appreciative of? So Abu Hashim is coming to complain to Imam Hadi that I'm poor, I'm suffering. Right when he comes in, Imam reads his mind. Because at the end of the hadith you understand, he reads his mind and says, which one of the blessings of Allah do you want to think? He's like, I just came here to complain. I did not come here to think. So which one of these do you want to think, Allah? Then he mentions that basically doesn't know. And then the Imam says, رِزْقُكَ الْإِيمَانِ, did you come here to think that Allah gave you Iman? And interesting, this hadith, it's rizq. Allah gave you Iman. Were you ever thankful of your faith? Were you ever thankful? One of the people during Prophet Musa's time, he had so many different types of sicknesses, blindness. Allah takes away everything from him. He keeps making dua. Later on, he finds out, he says, because in this city, everyone is a polytheist. Mushrik, I am the only Muslim. I am therefore, I'm the only muwahid. I'm the only monotheist of Allah. Have you ever appreciated Allah and thought and thanked Him for your Iman, for your Islam? Doesn't Allah open your chest for Islam? Doesn't Allah say even Rasulullah cannot cause you to become mu'min? Allah does inshirahul qalb. He opens up the chest. Did you ever thank Allah for that? Did you ever thank Allah that as tonight many people are going trick-or-treating and they're wearing funny costumes? Not that I say this is haram for sure or whatever, is haram bayyin or whatever, but it is at least batil. It is at least void. It's doing something, spending money, wearing funny clothes, trick-or-treating for something that's batil. At least we know from religion, we do not want to be part of the battalin, those whose lives are filled with voidness. Because as Muslims, everything we do should have purpose. Imagine, I was saying in this meeting I had before here, we have a meeting with the reverts. So imagine, for example, someone's driving to go buy their costume, for example, or buy some extra candy, and they die on the way. They crash and die. They ask him, what happened? Why did you die? He says, on the day of judgment, they say, I was going to get Halloween candy. I was going to get a costume. So you laugh at him because you were doing something vain. You were doing something void. It's different if somebody dies going to work, going to worship Allah, going to masjid, for example, going back to his family. These are all good things. We should avoid being batil. Why do you think they go trick-or-treating or celebrate Halloween? Because there's nothing else in their lives. They want to make a big deal out of nothing because it's full of emptiness and there's a void in their lives. If they had that ability to worship Allah, if they had those Eids, those festivities that we have, for example, the Wiladat, Qadir, for example, and we truly celebrated it, or Muharram and these things, or Shahr Ramadan, or for example, Eid al-Adha, all these important events, there's no more space to think about something that is void. So therefore, we see him, Imam Hadi alayhi salam, come to Abu Ja'far Hashimi and tell him that, what do you want to thank Allah for? Your iman? Do you want to thank Allah for rizquka al-afiyah, for your afiyah, for example? Wa rizquka al-qunu, that Allah has given you the ability to deal with poverty and faqr. Ya Aba Hashim, innama abtada'tuka بهذا لأني ظننت أنك تريد أن تشكو, he says. Abu Hashim, I began to start with the favors of Allah because I knew that you were going to complain. And he didn't want Abu Hashim to complain in front of him. So he reversed it. Imam Hadi alayhi salam reversed it and says, look at your rizq, your afiyah. Look at, for example, your qunu'. Look at, for example, your iman. Then at the same time, though, the imam comes and gives them 100 dinars. 100, what's the difference from dinar and dirham? Dinar is gold coin. Dirham is silver. The ratio is 1 dinar equals 10 dirhams. So he gave them 100 dinars equal to 1,000 dirhams. So therefore, we see that appreciating Allah, appreciating the gifts of Allah, this will cause me calmness. This will make me to say, Alhamdulillah, I'm enjoying I have iman, I have a house, I have food, I have children, I'm married. For example, I have family members, I'm healthy. I look at my life and I look at all of these ni'mats and I know I cannot truly thank Allah for it. The second step to being appreciative is to spend in Allah's path. It's not just to say, Alhamdulillah, I have money, I have time. I make use of it. I become a teacher, for example, and I teach students. I have knowledge. I give the zakat of that knowledge to people. I have money and wealth. I give my money and wealth to the poor, for example. I help them. I am someone that causes khair. I cause goodness. And it was so much in a way that when I pass away, everyone will become sad. They say, he helped so many people. He was so kind. Is how the poet says, that day that you came to this world, everyone was laughing, you were crying when you were born. He said, friend, do something that when you leave this world, everyone will be crying and you will be laughing. Do something in your world that everyone will miss you. May Allah, inshallah, make us of those that are truly calm through being able to realize how many blessings and ni'mat He has given us, and to be able to realize that that calmness and peacefulness comes from within, inshallah. We'll make dua right now. May Allah give victory to all of those who are fighting against oppression. May God give protection to our brothers and sisters in Lebanon and Palestine, inshallah, and throughout the entire world. May Allah give shafa to all of those who are sick, especially the children. May Allah, this is the night of Thursday night, it is the night of the deceased. May Allah have forgiveness for our family members who have parted away. and grant all of you your hawa'ij, inshallah, and expedite the return of the Imam with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.